Hey, what's up guys, TheJordude here, back again with another Shadowverse video. They just announced, when did they announce it? 3 o'clock in the morning. They announced some new changes for the upcoming Shadowverse patch, which is happening on July 27th, so just in a few days. They didn't nerf any cards, so any of you guys that have been asking for a rune nerf or like a shadow nerf, you're not getting it. Instead, we're getting some buffs to some cards that we don't actually see much play in. So let's just go over the buffs real quick and kind of talk about are they going to be impactful, what kind of decks can you see these cards be played in, and yeah, hopefully I could get this video done pretty quickly. I have work in like half an hour, so yeah. So first off, they are changing Latika to Stoneclaw. She is the forest legendary. She's a 5 play 0.44. Before, what she used to do is let me just pull it out here. So before, she used to, if you have 2 fairies in your hand, deal 4 damage to an enemy follower, and fanfare, if you have a natural and great tree in play, you gain the ability to evolve for 0 evil points. And then if you evolve, you get Send Him Packing into your hand, and Send Him Packing is a spell card, 4 play point spell. Remove all effects from an enemy follower with the highest attack in play, except changes to its attack or defense, then destroy that follower. And then add 2 cards to the number of cards played this turn. So they are changing the first fanfare effect from her, from if you have 2 fairies in your hand, deal 4 damage to a follower, to instead deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. So this will always do 2 damage to a follower even if you have no fairies in your hand. Then if you have a fairy in your hand, deal 2 damage to all enemy followers. So you can still do 4 damage to a follower because you could target it, it will deal 2, and then after that it will do 2 more. But this 2 damage will do spread damage. Now, I think this change is kind of okay, personally, because right now in the meta, like, think about what kind of boards your opponent's playing, like Havencraft boards. They're going to have huge boards from Elena's, Shadowcraft boards, like Burial Rite boards. They're going to have a bunch of 4/4s or 5/5s. Swordcraft boards, I guess, like if you're playing against Rally Sword, then your 2 damage AoE could kill it. Dirt Rune, they don't really have many followers anyways. So honestly, while getting an additional AoE effect is nice, and what this deck will be what deck this card will be played in, which is probably Evil Control Force, which doesn't have an AoE, so having the AoE is nice, don't get me wrong. It's just that I don't think 2 damage is going to be very relevant in the current meta. But however, they're also changing another part of Latika, which is Send Him Packing. They're making it from a 4 cost to a 3 cost. So Send Him Packing I actually think is pretty good. It's a good spell, but 4 play points, of course, was way too expensive. Making it 3 cost, it is a hard removal. It's like a silence and a hard removal effect. And it also could activate combos. The comboing part doesn't matter too much because, like I said, I think Latika is mainly going to be a Evolve Control Forest deck, because that deck is, they have natural cards, and so they're playing like the Great Tree, so you could get a free Evil on your Latika, and it just adds to your Evil count later on for your Zeus. And so yeah, it's just a control card overall. It doesn't really fit into Terraformer. Maybe you could put it into Terraformer though, because it's going to do AoE, so maybe it's more control. But it's kind of meh for Terraformer. But don't quote me on that. And like Roach, it's too clunky of a card, it's way too expensive, so I don't think you could play it in Roach. Unless you're going back from like Bug Bros into a more control style Roach with like the Natura package, maybe you could actually play this card when I think about it. So you wouldn't be playing the Excel stuff, you'd be playing the natural stuff. So yeah, actually, Latika may be seen in like Roach, maybe in Terraformer. People want to try it out. But the biggest deck I think it looks at is probably like Evil Control Force. But Evil Control Force is just a spin-off of the original Roach. So yeah, actually you could possibly see this in Roach. So is it going to make an impact? I think people are going to try it out. I don't think it's going to be like a huge huge meta changer for Forest, though, because I think people are just, Terraformer's still just going to be the better deck. But if you're playing like a Control Force with Roach or with like Hangman, this could be pretty good. So the buff I think it's a nice buff.
さあ
Next up, the next card they're changing is Sarin. So the change that they're making is they're changing her from a 5 cost to a 4 cost, and that's about it. But what she does is if you have 2 allied amulets in play, gain the ability to evolve for 0. And she has Union Burst, deal 3 damage to all enemy fallers. If your leader has 5 defense or less, deal 5 instead. So, and then if you evolve her, she could subtract 3 from the countdown of an amulet. So first of all, Sarin, she has a good ability, don't get me wrong. Like, you could evolve for free, so she becomes a 5/7. That's very good. In decks that are playing 2 amulets, which most Haven decks at the moment are, if you think about either Sophina Haven, they're going to have more than 2 amulets, obviously. If you think about Elena's Haven, the new Elena Haven list, they're trying to get 2 Elanas on the board usually. And then they also have Golden Bell, so a lot of times you could get 2 amulets on the board, in my opinion. And so yeah, those are the 2 like popular Haven decks at the moment, and they both could meet that condition to get free evo. Getting the free evos are nice because it's going to be good for what's that card called? Because more and more people want to play this card. It's just a good card, Resolve of the Fallen, so you do want to meet the evolve conditions for it to be better. So getting those free evo points do matter because it adds up to your evo counts. So talking about her Union Burst dealing 3 damage to all enemy fallers, that's pretty good. Like I said, it's not going to be clearing shadow boards though, which I think is a big deal. And shadow and Haven boards is not going to be able to clear. So I think the AoE, while it's going to be strong against all those other decks, it's not going to be good against the 2 like really strong decks at the moment. So I think the AoE, I think it's going to work out most of the time. But then yeah, if you have a big shadow board, you can't really deal with it. Dealing 5 damage, this is only when you have 5 defense or less, so if you're already at 5 health or less, you're probably really close to dying. So I don't really like that part of the effect, just because you hardly get it off, because when you do, you just die on the next turn. So yeah. And then the countdown ability for Elena Haven, like, it's just good for automatically popping like a Golden Bell, so you could get some extra card draw, so that might be useful. And in Sophina Haven, it kind of helps with the clunk that you might have, because later on in the game, when you play in Sophina Haven and you're drawing your amulet cards, it's really hard to play it because it's just really clunky, it's too slow. So yeah, I don't think Sarin is going to be too... The problem with Sarin going to 4 is that it interferes with your 4-pillar tortoise. So people were playing this card so that it will always draw your Elanas, and it just adds to the consistency of the deck. So now if you're playing Sarin at 4 cost, the tortoise won't be able to guarantee draw your Elanas anymore. So if that's a really big deal that you want to be doing with the tortoise, then yeah, you can't play the Sarin. But if you don't mind drawing Sarin time and time, and if the payoff for playing Sarin is that much worth it, then I think people are going to start running Sarin. Now, I don't think Sarin is as good in just like an Elena's Haven, because it's kind of hard to fit. The deck is already like pretty stuffed, so I can't imagine really seeing Sarin in like an Elena Haven. But in like a Sophina Haven build, or that's like not super focused on getting Elena's out, and maybe an Amulet Haven in the future with the combination of Garuda, I think that the deck could be... I think Sarin could be quite played. Now, so yeah, like, right now, I don't think Sarin is going to be huge, because there's not really good amulets that you're playing right now. Just Haven doesn't have great amulets at the moment. But in the future, I think there could be a really good Amulet Haven, because they seem to be buffing the amulet stuff. They're giving amulet stuff good stuff. They're just missing like a good curve, good amulets to be playing. So it is something to watch out for in the future, I think. Maybe in the mini expansion, Amulet Haven might get some good stuff. So the last card they changed is Orcas. They're changing Orcas Linked Heart from 7 play points to 6 play points. So similar to Sarin, they're just changing the costs. So just have a look at what Orcas is, if you don't know. Orcas is a fanfare choose, summon a Lloyd or a Marionette Uno. Whenever a Lloyd comes into play, give it +2/+2. And whenever Uno comes into play, summon a Marionette Duo A. And then she has the evolve ability, transform a puppet into your a puppet in your hand into a marionette tray, and the other effects are the same. So Aloyd is this guy. It's the 1/4 ward. Your opponent has to target this guy if they're using an effect. The Uno is a 1/1 ambush. The Due is a 3/2 storm. And then at the start of your turn, it combines with the Uno to summon a tray. And the tray, remember, you could get one into your hand from the Evil, is the 3/3, the storm that could attack twice. And last word, summon a Uno and a Due. So you could technically go like infinite trays, but I mean, that never happens. But yeah, it could do 6 damage. If you evolve this guy, it becomes a 5/5. You could just do 10 damage bursts. And then it could also summon a Due, which will have storm. So you could combo it. You could get quite a bit of stuff in the puppet, yeah. So right now, Portalcraft isn't seeing much play. They have Artifact Portal, but it was gaining some hype, but I think the hype kind of died down. The deck is just a bit weak. However, Puppet Portal, like puppets in general, got some support, I believe, from the Fortune's Hand expansion. So there might be like a puppet deck in the future that like 6 class Orcas is pretty strong. I would say it's a lot different than turn 7. Like turn 6. You could play it before your opponent could play Item Shop. But turn 7, like if you're going second, you can never play Orcas when your opponent is playing Item Shop, for example. Or if you're going first against Terraformer, you could play Orcas on turn 6. And then that's before your opponent could play Terraformer. So 7 and 6 is actually such a big breaking point in the current meta, just because 7 play points, sometimes you just can't get to and you just get OTK'd. But turn 6, you could pretty much almost play it against certain decks, and then like Terraformer, you have to be going first. But I also have an anime version of this card. So let me see. Actually, I need to show you something I saw on Twitter. So this guy Matomo, he was thinking of trying to build some kind of portal deck and is running these cards. So I actually think this is quite interesting. First of all, you guys might not be able to read it. So like this card is very strong actually in the moment for Portalcraft. It's just that Portalcraft isn't very strong at the moment. But Sure-Sighted Lancer, destroy an enemy followers whose attack or defense has been raised. So every deck that are running Fear in, this guy could free destroy a follower for 1 play point. Against Havencraft, this card is super powerful as well. So Shadow and Haven, this card's really good in. So I think this card is really strong in the meta. It just hasn't found too many uses. And so this guy, he wants to be playing also the Colosseum on High. You know what this card is from Terraformer. So yeah, the combination, because your opponent's going to be buffing a lot of their followers from Colosseum on High. You could get free kills with the Lancer, which is pretty cool. Let me check what this puppet spell was. So this guy was thinking of playing Inverted Manipulation. I think this card's okay. It's just a decent spell, but it's not crazy or anything. And the last card he was thinking of was, yeah, Orcas. So in terms of the puppet stuff, I don't think, when I'm looking at the cards that they have some cool stuff like Puppet Bomb. I think this card is pretty cool. It's actually a pretty strong AoE if you can set it up well, if you have enough puppet generators in your deck. So if you're mixing like all these puppet stuff, box of puppets as well, and maybe the float cards that Puppet has, you might be able to build like a decent mid-range tempo deck, where Eden Orcas is kind of like your cap, and it's going to do the burst damage. Because with Colosseum on the high and Tray, and if you have an evil point with the Tray, you could actually get your Marinette Tray to 7 attack, because you evolve this, and then with the Colosseum on high, you can make it 7. So that's like 14 damage bursts potentially on your turn 7, which when you think about it, that might actually be really strong. And so you would just need to get 6 damage in beforehand, and if you're playing puppets, you should be gaining tempo because puppets are just 0 cost rushes. So like, yeah, maybe Puppet Portal could make a comeback with the buff to Orcas. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'm actually pretty excited now. Now that I've talked about it, I kind of want to be playing. I really want to try out Puppet Portal after the buffs. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, going out over all the cards that are getting buffed in the upcoming patch. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the buffs that they announced. Did you think that Do you think that these buffs are going to be relevant in the meta? Do you think they should have buffed other cards instead, or do you think or would you have rather just preferred nerfs? Because it doesn't matter if they're nerfing. It doesn't matter if they don't nerf like the really powerful stuff. If they buff old cards to give power level to new decks, maybe they could actually compete against the tier 1 decks at the moment. So you don't have to think about, oh, they have to nerf. But oppositely, if they give buffs, maybe it's going to be good. Maybe it evens out, just like what a nerf would do. It would even things out. So think about it like that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.